go. 3, 2, and 1.
It's out on Listener, secrets we keep at all costs, and it's all about IVF and I guess the regulations that haven't been around for so many years like IVF has, because it was a new technologies and laws didn't catch up. So we're hearing a lot of stories that are coming out where a lot of kids want to find out who their siblings could be or maybe who their father is and finding a lot more. And one person that did do that is Katherine. Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, in this podcast, we have heard about your story, which is the fact that you kind of thought it was pretty cool when your mum told you that you, had a donor, and you're like, "Cool, I came from a petri dish."
Yeah, I just thought it was a bit science fiction, a little bit Marvel, a little bit I was frozen. My feet are still cold. Yeah. But then you just sort of assume that everything was done in a really ethical way, or that's the way that we believe it is with all of their marketing. Their marketing is very strong, but it's also a medical profession, so you just assume that they go by, Hippocratic Oath and all of that business. But no.
So what happened in 2015? You attended a conference for donor-conceived families?
Yeah, it was organised by Lauren Burns. She's been on Australian Story, and she was doing a lot of organising of like donor conceived people meeting each other. She was offering to, I had a coffee with her when I moved to Melbourne. She was the first donor conceived person I met, and she organised a whole conference and got funding for people to be flown over from Perth if they wanted to come. And it was probably the most donor conceived people in one room in Australia at the time.
Wow.
It was really cool. We had a panel, and Damien Adams was talking about DNA testing, which was still kind of expensive and a bit futuristic in 2015, it felt like. I met this girl, and I didn't really pay much attention, which I feel really bad about now. Because she did, and she thought that we looked similar, and we said our codes, and they were similar. But yeah, when she said she was from South Australia, I just wrote it off instantly.
So you compared donor codes, and donor codes are who your sperm donor is. So you can be like, if the codes are the same, you go, well, we're siblings, essentially.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So she really thought that you looked alike, but you're like, well, that's just a coincidence because we've got a different donor code.
Yeah. And at that stage, there was no way that I'd never heard of anyone having a different donor code to a sibling. Right. They're meant to all be checked and everything. But even now in any state, clinics don't legally have to verify a donor's legal identity.
Right.
And that's crazy, especially when you think how much us Australians travel to different states as well. Like we're not so isolated that you would think that it should be a law throughout all of Australia and have the same sort of regulations, not state by state.
Yeah.
And that's a giant loophole that the clinics totally take advantage of, that it's a different jurisdiction. Like, I'm not allowed to look for or find the possible siblings in Queensland. Like, there's definitely been siblings made in Queensland because at least one family moved there from Melbourne. So if there's an established, transportation route, why wouldn't a multi-million-dollar industry use one more bloke to make a ton more money?
So then after, like a year later after, and that's so true what you said, a year after you did Ancestry.com she uploaded it and you found out that you were in fact half sisters?
Yeah, I just hadn't prioritised it because I was still studying. So I eventually got to do 23andMe, and she was right there. It was really strange because I just completely forgot about that interaction because it was just such a non-event to me. And then I was just Googling this person, and I found someone with the same name in the UK because she'd sort of used a different name on Facebook and in the DC groups online and stuff. So I couldn't find her, and then she sort of messaged and said, "Yep, it's me."
And that's when you found out that you had 700 siblings from this one bloke. Is that right?
That was a little bit later. So that was after I met him, and it sort of clicked that because we had a few different codes already, I'd found 3 different codes by the time I'd met him. He'd agreed to meet with me in 2023. I met him, and I just said, oh, just to kind of clarify, because he was doing well, his health had been well enough that he could sort of want to meet and things like that.
Could you say that because you're saying that he admitted that he had mental illness?
Yeah, it was at a facility with his care team that I met him, because I wanted to meet him in the most supported way. So if he wanted to bail, there was literally a second door at the back of our, it was dimly lit. His carer was there, his case manager, and he'd been there beforehand to meet with him. And it was, I just wanted to do everything in the most supported way. It's a bit of I don't know if I can say shit sandwich, but it's a bit of a terrible situation. So I just wanted him to be the most supported that he could if he wanted to meet me.
That's nice of you to think about that aspect, but I wonder if there was any sort of anger in you, because to find out that he, well, I guess at that stage admitted that he'd used all the fake names, that he had went to 6 clinics and 4 different hospitals, and there were many years that he was doing it for. Was there not some sort of anger, or your anger at the clinics?
It was always anger at the clinics, because they'd never, you'd have to fight tooth and nail to get any kind of information. And there's people going through health ombudsman to try and get information. It's about, you sort of think that it's your medical information, but they just say that it's not. And they're the ones in control of this, and they're the ones in control of the marketing to attract the donors, which was money. So he was just someone trying to make money, like we all are, and his ability to judge what's right and wrong and gaming a system and all that kind of stuff is really skewed by his mental illness. So I couldn't really, he's not accessible in that kind of way to me, so I don't think I can be angry at him.
Because when you think about it, he stopped donating at the same time that they stopped paying.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Yeah. And would that make all of his estimated offspring susceptible to that mental illness as well?
Yeah, there's a genetic predisposition.
Wow.
And it's all environmentally, we're subject to our environments, and they say that is a bigger factor. But so the clinics are refusing to tell any families, even in other families that I'm aware of with kids as young as 6 and younger, they used the same excuse they told me, that the inheritance pattern is unknown, and so they won't be telling the families. It's environmental, the impact. So if you have a sibling of mine that goes and, uses a particular substance each day to calm down or whatever, there's a direct link, and that's environmental, and that's in their control, and there's no way I would do that because of the predisposition I'm aware of.
Right. Knowing that information, you would be able to, if you had a child, and, it's one thing to say, don't smoke marijuana, and then peer pressure comes along, but if you could say to them, this is what is in your DNA, where you could end up in really, really big trouble. Yeah,
and never come back from... And I'm not going to go to South America and have, go to an ayahuasca ceremony, because if you go to a reputable place, they say, do you have mental illness in the family? If you do, we can't provide this service to you.
Yeah, right.
And Katherine,
don't know.
I mean, it's also, you want to be able to encourage siblings. I believe there is a risk of bowel cancer as well.
Yes. We've got quite a doozy of a situation.
Wow.
Yeah. So that had been found in 2017, 18. A sibling checked, and then, I went and checked, and it was fine. I was young and thinking there could be nothing wrong with me, because we don't think that there is in our 20s, I guess. But then, I found another sibling that was, had their ancestry test in a drawer for 5 years.
Yeah.
And then eventually did it, and had been having these checks the whole time.
It's
so when they linked up, I said, we've got these issues, and they said, I know about that. I've got a sibling who has schizophrenia, and I've been checking for bowel cancer these past 5 years.
And
they were just lucky.
You would think something like that have to be passed on, as some sort of medical law. Yeah. But it seems like the secrecy and these IVF clinics that are quite protected, and
they lobby too. They lobby too. So the law in Victoria, the legislation says a clinic may, not must. That is a huge. That's the reason South Australia didn't have a donor conception register until this year, because the legislation said may instead of must be set up. So the clinics may, and then there's section 68E that says nothing in this part requires a clinic to pass on medical information.
And I feel
they've lobbied for a section to say that.
I feel like sometimes there is this attitude of like, you've come into the world. This is a wonderful technology. Look what we've given you. Like you should be, grateful. When you turn around.
This situation awesome?
But that's the whole thing though. You never say that to any child. Do you know what I mean? Like no one's ever asked to be born. And of course they love life. But at the same time, they want to be into circumstances that they thought would be checked.
Yeah. And if you want me to do all the right things by society, like feel good about things and do the right thing myself, then I need to get the medical information to siblings because that's what a decent person does.
Yeah.
But the clinics won't do it.
Well, I guess they're only working within the rules that they have to. So what it comes down to is
and for billable
the government.
Hours.
Yeah, exactly. The government needs to step in. They cover every other aspect of our lives. Why not just chuck this one on top of the pile?
There's a national register of everyone who's had IVF treatment. There's already that, and that exists already. Right. There's already a genetic database of everybody who's been part of any kind of crime. But the requirement that we believe, like that I believe, donor conceived people we should be able to have genetic testing so that we can know for sure who our siblings are. Like the mix-up with the embryos just found in Queensland, that's because of the legislation that everyone's been pushing for, that clinics have to report things. Because before that, there's definitely been mix-ups in Australia and the families just get hit with NDAs and a little chunk of money to stay quiet.
Wow.
Has it really affected? I mean, you sound so upbeat and I admire you, I guess, sharing a story, but really deep down, this mentally, it must have affected you so severely.
It's really hectic. It's been mostly actually coming out because I'm putting my face and my name to it. Like you don't see any other siblings because I think a big part of it too is that my mum had passed away and now I don't have my parents to protect.
Yes.
Emotionally. Yeah. And so, like a day like Mother's Day, that sucks. And I was wanted so badly and I was fought for so hard and paid
she did
so much
all the right things.
And she's gone. And all of our parents are going to be at some point. And so you have to do whatever you want to do with your own life. And that's apparently for me getting medical information to my bloody siblings. But I don't know. You just you get dealt the cards you dealt and you just got to keep trying to do as best you can. Yeah. I'm actually, really surprised that when my mum died, I didn't have any kind of breakdown. Like that's surprising to me, knowing the predispositions and stuff I've got and going through grief and stuff. Like I'm just sort of, the older I get and, I'm not going out doing any substances. And I did music performance degree. Like
there was a lot around.
If anyone's going to be doing or trying stuff, it's the musicians. But, I just sort of was taught to sort of stay away from it and manage stress and or whatever.
Thanks for sharing your story. We hope you find your siblings, and because
we hope this helps as well, Katherine.
I'd encourage anybody, really, really encourage anybody, if your parents just had you late and haven't said anything else, to try and think about ancestry DNA because I know of 14. And the ones that are popping up on Ancestry for me have no idea.
Yeah, right. Well, with 700 of them, just make sure you have the rule of no birthday or Christmas presents.
Literally,
right?
No, we'd all be totally broke.
Thank you for sharing your story with us this morning. Really appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you for giving it a voice.
Thank you, Katherine. Really